Humans have been trying to understand one another as long as we've been around. So we have concluded that there's no way to really fully understand how one another work and why we do the things that we do. But we can grasp conclusions from what we analyze from people's body languages and the way that they talk. Recently, I observed my high school math teacher, and today I will be explaining the circumstances of the situation, how he reacted to certain things and what these reactions mean, and what you can conclude from the overall subject and his actions. So as I said, my subject is a high school math teacher. It's his first year teaching at this school, and he is mostly for applied math classes, so he teaches a lot of freshman classes. And it is important because the class before us is freshman, which can make any teacher or any person kind of go really have a lot of anxiety and just kind of need a cool down after that, because freshmen can be a little overwhelming, especially for first-time teachers. Another thing that could affect the subject was that the room was really cold, and so he was wearing gloves, and he had a long sleeve shirt on and jeans. He also, the room had no windows in it, so it was kind of dark and dim, which could change the mood of the setting altogether. So all of these things that I've listed are possible factors that could have affected the subject's reactions to certain things or how the way he motioned. As I said, while observing my math teacher, I found certain body languages that he portrayed to be interesting, and I'll tell you what he did and what we can kind of conclude from how he was acting. So the first thing I noticed was that before he speaks, he kind of looks to the ground and smiles to himself. This, you can kind of conclude that whatever he's going to say, he needs a little boost from himself or something, so that he smiles to make himself feel more welcome to his words. Also, when he talks to the whole class, he opens his arms up like this to show the class that he's open for their impact or input on the situation, and he also puts his thumbs up and palms up, which means he's being honest about what he's saying. Another thing with his hands he does, whenever he's trying to make a point, he points his hands down to the ground to kind of point to an imaginary words or kind of point that he's making. And whenever he is trying to get the class involved, he rolls his hands up from his chest and out to us to show that he is waiting for a reaction from the class as a whole, and that he wants himself and us, the class, to be kind of connected and react to one another. Whenever he sat down at his desk, after a while, probably at the beginning of class, whenever he was still kind of stressed and overwhelmed by the freshman class before us, he puts his index fingers in between the bridge of his nose, and he kind of rubs around, which is a soothing technique to just have something touching his face, just for a subtle reminder or just like a comfort thing. Another thing that he does for comfort, he uses vocal fillers a lot, and which you can kind of conclude that he feels awkward during silences, so even if it is quiet and there's nothing left to be said, he will say what he's thinking or his thoughts out loud, and he'll just kind of make up sentences out of nothing just to make sure that the time is not wasted or there's not words being said at all times. Whenever he's trying to make another point, he'll open his eyes really wide and furrow his brow, which is kind of a signal to the class that he's waiting for an answer and that he is interested in what the class has to say about his question. Also, the eyes wide means that he's kind of also interested in what we're saying and he wants us to react to what he has just said. After he asks a question, he clicks his tongue, which there's no really scientific explanation for that, but I think that it means that kind of like on a game show, whenever there's like a timer or a clicking, it kind of means that he's waiting or you need to respond quick to one of his questions, and I think that's kind of what he's trying to do there, like subconsciously. So now I'm going to talk to you about what his body language are about while he was teaching. So during the process of him teaching. So whenever he refers to the board, he points his hands and raises it up and down so that he's drawing all of his attention to the board. He faces his feet to the board so that all of his attention is there, and that's where he wants to be. And he also faces his chest and head, so all of his attention is on what he's doing on the board. He's writing. He also puts one hand in his pocket that is closest to the board, which kind of puts up an invisible barrier, and he leaves himself open to the class whenever asking a question or whenever he's done writing, which also could be because it was cold in the classroom, so he put his hand in his pocket, but it also means the invisible barrier too. And whenever he had his binder out, he would hold it closer to the board, which I found interesting because he always leaves this side open to the class, no matter what, if he's holding a pen or a binder or something, which also, because he's always holding a pen or a binder or something, that's also another soothing tactic that he uses, that he always has something to hold on to just make him feel secure and that he's doing a good job. And with the soothing thing, it kind of also shows that he's really uncomfortable or kind of scared in the situation that he's in with teaching a bunch of juniors in high school, and it's his first year. So also you could see that he was kind of uncomfortable by whenever he messed up on a problem, he shrugged his shoulders and made himself smaller because he was embarrassed that he got a problem wrong or someone corrected him in the class, and so he makes himself smaller. And also he rubs his arm to kind of soothe himself again, just to tell himself that it's okay, and just kind of like a dad does to a kid who's hurt. He'll rub his arm just to soothe him and calm him down. That's kind of what he's doing to himself there. So there are many reasons that body language does, people do what they do, but there could be also some reasons for the actions outside of this. So the setting, like I've been saying, it was cold and dark, so that could have put a mood on the classroom to where it's cold and so everyone's kind of anxious and upset. That happens during the winter with people a lot, so that could have been a factor in how the teacher was acting. And he was also being watched by a classroom of juniors, which can make anyone uncomfortable public speaking, and that maybe is why he used so many soothing tactics. But overall, the body language of the subject led me to the conclusion that he was uncomfortable with some social interactions, speaking to the class he was comfortable with because he was opening himself up, but problems and personal interactions he was not very comfortable with because he always put his hand in his pocket, or he was messing with a pen while talking to someone, or he would look down and smile to himself before he spoke. Things like that led me to the conclusion that he was kind of uncomfortable. And that he did not make eye contact with the class really at any point. He just kind of looked around unless he asked a question directly to the class. And another conclusion that I got because of the body language of the teacher was that he wanted a stance of authority because he always had his chin up, and his hand motions like this also portrayed that he wanted respect because he wanted people to listen to him as a person. So today I've given you memorable examples of certain body languages and how they lead to certain conclusions about how the person is feeling on the inside, and what kind of factors might affect the different kinds of body languages that people portray. Now that you know all this, hopefully you'll be able to understand the next person you talk to a little better. Thank you.